Good evening, welcome to Have I Got News For You? I'm Richard Ayoade. In the news this week, an employee at a car wash in Aberdeen struggles to contain his frustration after a heated argument with his boss. On day 2 of COP26, no one tells Prince Charles that Joe Biden is having another quick nap at the edge of the stage. And this frustration as one pub quiz team struggles to remember just how many members there were in S Club 7. On Paul's team tonight is a writer and comedian who doesn't own a mobile phone. He was meant to be on last series, but when the messenger pigeon arrived, he was out at Jazzercise. Please welcome Andy Hamilton. On Ian's team tonight is a comedian who says everything's funny eventually. It just takes time. No, I think there's more to it. Please welcome Roisin Conaty. We begin with the bigger news stories of the week. Paul and Andy, have a look at this.
Yeah. Oh, minute to midnight.
Yeah. The Edinburgh Fringe starting early.
Yeah.
Bucks Fizz have let themselves
Yeah,
go.
they haven't, they?
Oh, let's all give each other COVID. Yeah, go. Yeah. Bolsonaro on his day off.
What's he doing there?
I think that's a gesture. He kept labouring this. It's about keeping 1.5 alive. So the right hand is 1
Yeah.
and the left hand is 5.
And he's the decimal point in the middle.
He is.
At last we found a point to Boris Johnson. Isn't that nice?
This is a continuing struggle to save the world. What's the score according to Boris Johnson?
He said we're 5-1 down, and it's
At half-time.
Oh, at half-time.
Yes.
But even
Now-
though it's half-time, it's 1 minute to midnight.
Yeah.
He doesn't make any sense, does he?
He said we were 5-1 down at half-time, but now I think we might have pulled 1 back, or 2 back. Yes, this is not to be confused with the COVID-19 pandemic, where, according to Professor Jonathan Van Tam, I would say we're kind of half-time in extra time. And we've got a few more months to run, and I think we'll be in much calmer waters by spring.
That's a hell of a long football match,
Yes.
that, isn't it? Not till the spring.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He said that at the Mixed Metaphor Championships.
Do we need metaphors to explain the situation to us?
No, and if they spent more time on arguing about the detail and less on the metaphors, I think we'd probably get closer to the argument.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see them introduce metaphors into football results. West Bromwich Albion, deforestation. Nottingham Forest, not as much as it used to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that desultory ripple of applause. No.
It's those three there.
It's moments like that first applause that keep me going as a performer. And the second round of applause was just plain patronising. I thank you for both of them because I know they were well meant.
I thought that Boris Johnson, you know, in the chair in that first speech, did as good a job as you could reasonably expect, given that he faced the insurmountable problem of his own personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he...
I got the same round of applause as Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, but that was more kind... That wasn't...
Oh, it might have been an echo from my applause.
Boris Johnson always reverts to that sort of that favourite persona that he's got, which is that of a sort of children's party entertainer, Mr. Fisty Pump.
That's not just a children's entertainer. And that was actually on the Tory expenses scandal. But why does Boris Johnson think the situation is improving?
Well, there were a couple of agreements.
Anyone in particular that...
Did he like the methane one?
Oh, he flipping loved that one.
We went into the COP thinking carbon dioxide's the thing that's really important. And then halfway through they say, oh, methane. Now, that's the gas you've really got to worry about. And everyone's thinking, what happened to carbon dioxide?
Well, with the methane, it's relatively easy to sort out and will only bring global temperatures down by a 0.1 degrees Celsius. Here's what Greta Thunberg and her mates made of that.
You can shove your climate crisis up your arse. You can shove your climate crisis up your arse. You can shove your climate crisis. You can shove your climate crisis. You can shove your climate crisis up your arse.
You see that is the thing about the Swedes. Their standard of English is really high.
Shoving the climate crisis up your arse isn't going to help the methane thing.
I will.
Plug it.
Yeah, plug it, yeah.
The methane pledge was largely the work of President Joe Biden. There he is. He wasn't the only one caught sleeping.
Our Prime Minister
Yes.
was.
Yep, he was dozing next to 95-year-old Sir David Attenborough. There he is.
God, there's been hundreds of people who've woken up looking at that.
Yep.
We got there in the end, good.
He's not still there when they wake up. Why have some climate activists and the more sceptical-minded been criticising the conference?
How they travelled there?
Yes, exactly. They point out that many of those attending are guilty of hypocrisy because of the methods of transport they used to get to Glasgow. One person commented, "Boris's carbon footprint is as big as his big, fat, lying, hypocrite face." Come on, Charles, we've all had a drink.
Yeah.
He topped it off when he flew home.
From Glasgow to London?
Yeah, and he took a private jet because he had to be back to go to dinner in the Garrick Club with Charles Moore, who he made a lord, and incidentally is a great defender of Owen Paterson. I know we don't want to jump ahead. We don't want to get on to this disgraceful act of criminality by this government, but...
All of them taking private jets there is like driving a tank to an anti-gun march. It's crazy. It's like very elite, and it's like we can, you know, that's the whole reason why we're in this problem is we're all bloated on convenience, and the idea is like, well, it's more convenient to, you know, yeah, that's why we order too much stuff, and it's all, that's the whole problem, is that we all like things to be convenient.
It wasn't just Boris, was it? I mean, Prince Charles, he's a great champion of sustainability, and he went to COP26, which coincidentally is the number of palaces that the royal family had. And many of them are not used for much of the year, except as safe houses for Prince Andrew. And he also flew down to London on a private flight. He could at least have catched a lift in Boris's private flight, couldn't he? I mean, who does the PR for these people? O.J. Simpson or something?
And Leonardo DiCaprio was there, and he made a big thing about flying commercial.
Yes.
But you're like, he can't write any legislation. Like, what? He could just zoom in. He doesn't need to be there at all.
Yes. He's very interested in protecting the children of the future and girlfriends of the future. Many of whom have yet to be conceived. The Zimbabweans really enjoyed themselves at COP26.
Oh, is this their shopping trip?
Yes. Do you want to see the Zimbabwean delegation leaving Costco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are ready, deeper than welcoming our President, Comrade Didi Mnangagwa in Scotland, UK.
COP26, we're ready. Gala celebrations, we're ready. Buravi, we welcome you. We celebrate your arrival. Thank you. Viva Zambia, viva.
They're delighted at the value they're getting.
Yes.
According to the Metro, their trolley contained a dozen bottles of whiskey, several crates of lager, and gallons of fizzy wine. Or, as they call it in Glasgow, Thursday. This is the continuing struggle to save the world. Around 400 private jets flew into Glasgow for the climate summit. However, most leaders managed to offset the huge amount of hypocrisy generated by their flight with the purchase of hypocrisy credits. The scheme uses cutting-edge insincerity capturing technology, which traps the unwanted cynicism and converts it into harmless humbug. This week, there was an alarming sight for those in Joe Biden's motorcade when they drove past the window of a house and realised they were being watched by a large, naked Scottish man. Alex Salmond, clearly missing frontline politics. Ian and Roisin, take a look at this.
Money, presumably being paid to an MP to oh, it's Owen Paterson, here we are. Yes, he's explaining why he's innocent. This won't take long. Food company that he was lobbying for.
Angela Rayner, who gave him hell in the Commons.
And that's Ian Duncan Donuts. One of the sillier members of the Conservative Party. And this is John Whittingdale. Oh, and here's a screeching U-turn. Yeah, this is the attempt by the government to cover up the misdeeds of one of their own Tory MPs and to undermine democracy, transparency and accountability. And they failed. Due to the fact that it was so bloody blatant that even they didn't get away with it. So there's a man called Owen Paterson who was paid $100,000 a year to lobby on behalf of 2 companies. He did. The Commissioner for Standards looked into him, found he was guilty, said, "You did it." He said, "I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I haven't had a chance to plead my case." He had. It's absolutely unbelievably clear-cut. And then all his Tory mates started a campaign, and the Prime Minister said, "Oh, right, we're changing the entire system now." He was going to be suspended for 30 days. They said, no, he's not. And all the Tory MPs voted it through. I mean, they should all be ashamed of themselves. It's absolutely disgraceful. I mean, a few others, Peter Bottomley and a few other Tory MPs didn't. But basically they said, if you criticise us, we're going to change the system. I mean, it was really quite shocking.
Yeah.
And
the thing is,
I'm looking for the joke, and it's...
thing is, like, they're saying, like, to rig the system, Owen Paterson got found guilty of egregious offences.
Egregious, it's such a good word.
And all that was going to happen to him was he got a 30-day suspension.
Yeah.
That's it, 30-day suspension, maybe a by-election, but, I mean, think of all the consultancy work he could have done in those 30 days.
They wanted, I think, because the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards had looked into the Prime Minister's free holiday in Mustique. So I think it might have been an act of revenge. I can't prove that, but I'm going to say it anyway.
But I suppose it was inevitable that Boris Johnson would be hostile towards the Commissioner for Standards, because the clue is in the name.
Usually when the Parliamentary Standards Committee looks into something like, is Priti Patel a bully? The answer, yes, of course she is. Then the Prime Minister says, I've read the report and I'm going to ignore it because I'm the Prime Minister. This time he said, I'm going to abolish you. I'm going to abolish the entire system. And I think he might have gone too far.
Owen received more than £100,000 from 2 companies, including Lynn's Country Foods, a company who claimed to be the country's leading sausage maker, and Randox Laboratories, a clinical testing firm who later went on to win a COVID-19 testing contract.
Unopposed?
Yes, with the government. I think I'm literally the only person who hasn't had one of these contracts. I'm joking, I do have one. What did Owen Paterson say when he resigned?
Oh, he's leaving the cruel world of politics.
Yes.
Oh.
That's right. He said, I will remain a public servant, but outside the cruel world of politics.
We wanted him to be a public servant when he was in the world of politics. But he wasn't. He was a paid advocate for 2 commercial firms.
Oh, please.
Yeah. To give more transparency, it seems to me the way to do it is that all MPs should have to wear the name of their sponsors on their shirts.
Like, great idea.
Like footballers. Or a sort of jokey badge that says, I am Serco's bitch, or something like that.
I want to know, what did he do for this sausage company? How did he keep...
What didn't he do for this sausage family?
Speeches in the House of Commons, I'd like to draw the right honourable friend's attention to sausages!
Paterson said that the system was unfair as he didn't get a right of appeal, and despite a 2-year investigation, he claimed that the Commissioner had refused to interview 17 key witnesses who would support his claims that the meetings he is accused of lobbying in were actually used to raise concerns about food safety. I just improvised that. OK, but what are the proposed reforms?
Whoever bids the most money represents them in Parliament.
That'd be a very good game show.
Well, they've said cases should be reviewed by a new committee chaired by John Whittingdale.
Yes, who fell foul of the old Standards Committee. So why not appoint someone who's already been found guilty by the previous lot?
What was he guilty of last time?
He didn't declare a visit to a record industry do in which he took along a dominatrix.
To be fair, that's the sort of thing that could slip your mind.
Yeah.
He might have been struck for cash.
Anyway, he wasn't punished, which must have been a big disappointment.
Oh, yes.
Well, there are people on Owen's side.
Yes.
Who are they?
The excellent Jacob Rees-Mogg.
He's one, but there are three in particular I'm thinking of.
Ian Duncan Smith,
Yes.
that's three.
That's three, yeah.
Yep.
Ian, Duncan and Smith.
Yep. John Burkow and Marc Francois. What do they all have in common?
They all look like they're made out of pastry.
They have all been found guilty of breaches by the Commission. Marc Francois broke the code with his use of parliamentary stationery. We don't know how he used it, that's his business. In other news, what was Boris Johnson doing at Hull Crown Court this week?
Was he arrested?
You really cheered up then.
No, sorry, I suddenly got very excited. Oh, I know what he was doing. He was looking for new members of the cabinet. Scouring the jails. Seeing if there's anyone left.
He wasn't there. It was his doppelganger.
That's not his doppelganger, that's his brother.
In fact, he looks a bit like Boris Becker.
He does.
Oh, my God, he's Boris squared.
Yeah.
They're both shaggers who've gone bankrupt.
That was too far.
Too far, Ian.
I agree. I think I should be referred to some sort of commissioner for
This is the news that Boris Johnson has forced through a vote to reform standards at Westminster following the suspension of Tory MP Owen Paterson, who was found to have breached the parliamentary code over his work for Randox and Lynn's Country Foods. Owen Paterson claimed he wasn't actually lobbying on behalf of these companies. He was raising concerns about milk and bacon standards, which is ironic because he milked the system and now he wants to save his own bacon. In other news, Barclays banker Jess Staley has been forced to step down due to his links with Jeffrey Epstein. According to the Times Financier, Staley will leave with a payoff of £2.4 million, £120,000 in pension contributions and costs to relocate to the US. And let that be a lesson to you.
What on earth is that?
I do my improp work.
Ian?
And so now,
Yeah?
Yes.
to round two.
Yeah?
The human dynamo of news.
Wow!
That's right. I'm going to be powering up the pictures with my own energy using this arm bike. That's what it's called, an arm bike.
Blimey. I see you've got a bulb there. What's the purpose of that?
This is just for the show. I'm not actually making enough power. There's a man under the table who's just switching it on. But the point is, I'm going to give it a go. I mean this, not the man. He's safe. Fingers on buzzers.
Yeah.
Here's the first one.
Presumably, this is the war with us and France over
Yes.
fishing rights.
That's what it is. Can I ask, what is the sitch with the fish? The sitch with the fish. I'm using street talk, Ian.
It's a phony war between Britain and France, which suits both parties very well because Macron's got an election coming up and the first rule of British politics is, if in trouble, annoy the French.
France alleges that the UK is withholding permits for French boats to fish in British waters, and they're demanding that more permits are approved.
So then the French just took the scallop boat. Is that what happened? So they said, you didn't give us a...
Yep.
And then they pulled a boat in. A British boat?
It's actually owned by Canadians, but it's sort of somewhere down the line it's become Scottish, British. Anyway, they've let them go.
Those scallops would be off.
We've been accused of not giving the French enough licences to fish in our waters, though if any of them can drive a truck, they're very welcome to get an HGV licence. Speaking of which, Dominic Raab's got a great idea of how to solve the HGV shortage. Do you know what it is?
Convicts.
Yes, that's right. Let's have a look at the clip.
Government's Justice Secretary, driven by a prisoner. Dominic Raab today highlighting a scheme where convicts are helping with the HGV crisis. Behind the wheel was Dean. He's on day release from jail working in haulage. His offence was importing drugs involving a lorry.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, the the front of that lorry was missing one letter. It said DAF. It should be DAFT. I mean, that is just brilliant.
What is going on?
Things are now being done purely for comic effect.
Yeah.
Speaking of conflicts between France and Britain, what recent Napoleonic artefact was sold last week?
Not the wallpaper that was supposed to have poisoned him or anything like that.
Yes, still available at Liberty. And no, it was one of his signature hats. Or, as the Sun put it, Battle of Waterloo loser, Napoleon's hat, sold for £160,000 yesterday. Yeah. You lost. You lost, mate. Beat ya. Losers. Who won the war? We did at Waterloo, is what they said. In other news, President Biden visited the Pope last week in Rome. Lots of people noticed someone behaving very differently. Who was that?
Ah, Wayne Rooney.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Is that what happens when Biden goes around? He finds the Pope having a chat with Wayne?
It wasn't Wayne Rooney.
I totally believed you.
The news site was so insane that sounded totally believable.
I realised when you said it that I wanted it to be Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
So I just went along with it.
If someone turned over during that bit, they've gone to the pub and gone, I saw it on Have I Got News?
It was the Pope's translator compared to how she was animated when Trump visited. Let's compare and contrast.
I'm the only Irishman you've ever met. I know that. 65, I'm 60. That's not how I look at it.
One hell of a poker player. Fingers on buzzers. Oh, it's not getting easier.
No.
Yes.
This is a man who's hypnotised a veal chop.
Yeah.
In Argentina, Buenos Aires, he's hypnotised the veal chop into be able to sing Judy Garland songs.
I've forgotten his name.
Yeah. Do you know?
But he does the steak chopping.
Yes.
What's his?
Salt Bay.
Salt Bay, that's it.
Yes.
It's like £600-700, and he comes over and he brings you some steak, and then he sort of goes like that.
Yeah. He's a chef, otherwise known as Nosret Gotche, who became an internet meme in 2017 for his unique salting style.
£700, please.
Yeah.
You're telling me that became an internet sensation?
Yeah.
Is there not much on the internet?
Do you know what bay means, Ian?
It's a sort of area of water, usually.
Right. Before anyone else.
Does he do pepper with the other arm?
Don't trivialise what Salt Bay does, OK? How many reviews do you think Salt Bay's been getting?
Not enough chips?
Yeah. He's been getting some bad reviews for his gold leaf steak. It comes in at around £850.
Yeah, next morning you're shitting ingots.
Salt Bay's been pilloried.
Oh, yes.
It's really been pilloried. And what's Salt Bay got to do now?
He's had to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yes, they like someone who's handy with a knife.
This is the news that a Knightsbridge restaurant run by Salt Bay serves a gold-wrapped tomahawk steak costing nearly £1,500. It's paying its chef just £12 an hour. That may not sound much, but it isn't peanuts. Peanuts are £17.50. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication, The Proper Mustard, the newsletter of the National Mustard Museum. You've probably got an old one at the back of the kitchen cupboard. And we start with doctors concerned about use of hula hoops to treat what?
To treat allergies to wheaty holes.
The answer is COVID.
I was going to say that, but I wasn't sure it was funny.
Doctors are becoming increasingly concerned about miracle COVID cures touted on social media, including eating lots of hula hoops. To be fair, the heavily salted cornstarch ring has been proved to be more effective than the protective ring Matt Hancock put around care homes. Next, mustard museum creator deems mayonnaise what?
Devil's sauce.
Yeah.
Beelzebub's topping. Satan's salad cream.
No, a gateway condiment.
If you don't start a condiment business with Beelzebub's topping on, then you hate money.
Well, I've got a lorry load of it in Felixstowe waiting to be delivered.
The piece begins. We often badmouth ketchup, but a reader asks, what about mayonnaise? And I ask, a reader? Next, what becomes first what to visit Mustard Museum?
Horse. A horse becomes the first horse.
Unfortunately, it's not right. The answer is Alan Mustard, ambassador to Turkmenistan. Alan Mustard was invited to the Mustard Museum, no doubt because of his name. Let's hope other museums follow suit, as that'll be great news for my mate, Keith, Natural History. Here is
a lot more work for Olivia Colman.
Yes. Here is Alan Mustard with the curator. Mr. Mustard also brought his wife along. We do have a picture of Mrs. Mustard, but we can't show it to you. It's too grainy. Next. Next. Sometimes you've just got to move on quick. That's the other thing as well. Next, the Queen is set to accept what from what to mark her 70-year reign?
Queen is set to accept guilty verdict for Andrew from America. No.
The answer is a commemorative lamppost from Parliament.
Where's she going to put the lamppost?
She's got corgis, hasn't she?
She's got a lot of...
Some MPs have called the lamppost a strange choice of gift, but I reckon as soon as she opens it, her little face will light up. Thank you. So, the final scores are... Paul and Andy have 6, Ian and Roisin languished behind with 4. But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition.
When you say this wine is full-bodied, you're not taking the piss, buddy, John.
On which note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Roisin Conaty, Paul Merton and Andy Hamilton, and I leave you with news. At Dover, the government go to increasingly desperate measures to keep lorry drivers in the country. In Istanbul, the Rock, Paper, Scissors World Championships throws up a real grudge match.
Is that Wayne Rooney?
And a hen party in Gloucester realises there's been a booking mix-up when the stripper arrives. Good night.
Next Friday's episode is at the later time of 9:30. A mysterious bag of cash leads to a game of cat and mouse in comedy from Stephen Merchant. The Outlaws, streaming now on iPlayer. We're on the road to another A1 lineup of guests with Graham Norton later on. He's about to pop up and tell you who they are.